Hey, Washington Commanders fans. Even though it's the bye week with a record nobody wants to remember, things don't stop here, and I have two important pieces of news that will show you the organization is already thinking about the future, while trying to salvage what's left of this season. The first piece of news involves some roster changes that have happened in the last few days, and there's a familiar name coming back home that could play an important role in the final 6 weeks of the season. But the second piece of news is even more exciting, because we're going to talk about the 2026 draft, and I'm going to show you exactly which players experts are predicting will select to finally add that speed that's been so lacking on both offense and defense. Subscribe to the channel now and hit the notification bell, because in the coming weeks, we're going to dive deep into each draft prospect and give a like if you're already thinking about next season, because let's be honest, this one is over. So let's start with the roster changes that happened during this bye week. Because even with the players and at least some coaches taking a break from football to rest and recover, the Commanders' front office continues to work hard on assembling the roster for the remaining games. At the end of the week, the organization made an official announcement about important changes that involved reintegrating a player to the practice squad and releasing a veteran to free agency. The first part of this announcement brought back a name some of you might recognize. Jacoby Jones has been re-signed to the practice squad. And at the same time, safety Daryl Worley was released from the practice squad, ending his brief stint with the organization without ever stepping onto the field wearing our colors. Let's talk about Jones first, because this story has an interesting context that's worth exploring. He was added to the team's active roster before the Week 11 game against the Miami Dolphins, and made his NFL debut in that game in Madrid with 11 offensive plays. During that limited time on the field, he managed to make one reception on a pass that resulted in 25 yards, showing that he wasn't nervous or out of place, even though it was his first time playing professionally. It was a solid performance considering the circumstances, and many believed he had done enough to earn more opportunities. But shortly after the team returned from Spain, he was waived from the active roster, leaving many fans confused and frustrated by the decision. The good news is that since he was not claimed by any other team when he passed through waivers, the Commanders were able to bring him back to the practice squad, which is exactly where he had been since the beginning of the season before that brief promotion in Week 11. Now that he has some real game experience in the NFL and has proven to be capable of adding value to the team, even in small doses, Jones will be someone the organization might consider utilizing in up to 3 games in the final 6 games of this season. This is an NFL rule that allows teams to promote players from the practice squad to the active roster for up to 3 games without having to make permanent moves on the roster. This provides flexibility to experiment with young players and see what they can offer without committing valuable spots on the main roster. On the other side of this change, we have Daryl Worley, a veteran safety who joined the team this season but never stepped on the field for Washington before being waived this week. Worley entered the league in 2016 as a third-round pick in the NFL draft coming from West Virginia University. So he is no stranger or uncredentialed player. Since being drafted, he has managed to play for various teams every year, maintaining an active professional career, but now he will need to find a new destination if he wants to keep that streak going in 2025. His last regular season game took place in 2024 when he played for the Tennessee Titans, so it has been a while since he saw real game action, and this likely weighed in the decision to let him go. These roster changes come right after Washington waived kicker Matt Gay following that disastrous performance of 2 successful kicks out of 4 attempts against the Dolphins, with the organization quickly signing Jake Moody to replace him. This shows that the management is willing to make moves when necessary, no matter how recent the signing or how much money was invested. And look, more roster changes could very well happen before we see the Commanders compete again, as they have opened up windows of opportunity for the return of 2 key players. Safety Will Harris and edge rusher Drake Jackson were on the injured list and could return in time to face the Denver Broncos in Week 14, right after this bye week. Having these 2 back would be a significant boost, especially considering how the defense has been struggling. Now let's get to the part that really excites me, because it's time to look ahead and talk about the 2026 draft. The draft experts from A to Z Sports have released a collaborative 3-round mock draft that envisions a very specific direction for the Commanders. And I have to say, the selections make a lot of sense considering our needs. We only have 2 picks within the first 100 of the draft, so hitting on those selections will be absolutely crucial this offseason. The latest mock draft predicts we'll add speed on both sides of the ball, and honestly, that's exactly what we desperately need. The lack of fast and explosive players has been a glaring issue on both offense and defense throughout this season. The first projected pick for us is at the 7th overall position in the first round, and the name is David Bailey, a defensive end coming from Texas Tech. Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports explained the reasoning behind this pick by saying that Bailey may not please everyone, but he is an extremely explosive and flexible pass rusher with enormous potential in clear passing situations. This is incredibly valuable in today's NFL, even if his impact on run defense is considered mediocre. And look, Roberts is completely right when he says that the Commanders urgently need more pressure on the opposing quarterback, because our inability to generate consistent pressure has been one of the main reasons for the defensive failure this year. Players who pressure the quarterback can be somewhat unpredictable in the first round, because sometimes they don't translate well to the next level, but Bailey's production speaks for itself. This kid has 12.5 sacks and an incredible 71 pressures on the season, making him one of the top players on Texas Tech's feared defense. When you watch his games, you're impressed by the speed he possesses. Standing at 6'3" and weighing 250 pounds, he stands out on the defensive line, and that combination of size and speed is exactly what we need right now. Bailey also demonstrates impressive strength in shedding blockers and getting to the backfield easily, creating chaos for opposing quarterbacks. He can become a truly elite player if he can improve his ability to stop the run game. But even with that limitation, he would still be an excellent choice for the Commanders, who need significant changes on defense. Losing Dorrance Armstrong Jr. and Dietrich Wise Jr. to season-ending injuries has completely exposed our lack of depth at this position. Jumping to the third round with the 71st pick, the mock draft projects that we will select Zachariah Branch, a wide receiver coming out of Georgia. If we decide not to take a receiver in the first round, getting Branch in the third would be simply amazing, an absolute steal. This kid will be one of the fastest players in the entire draft and would provide an immediate boost to our offense that is desperately in need of creativity and explosiveness. He is 5'10" and weighs 180 pounds. And when you see him with the ball in his hands, he literally looks like a blur on the screen. His speed is on another level, and that is exactly the kind of weapon Jayden Daniels needs to maximize his potential as a quarterback. Georgia utilizes Branch heavily in screenplays because he can turn short receptions into big gains with his ability to make defenders miss tackles in open space. I would love to see him have more opportunities on long passes to really test that top speed, but that is outside of his control and depends on how Georgia's offensive coordinator designs the plays. Despite his smaller size, Branch still has a contested catch rate of 62.5%, showing that he isn't afraid to fight for tough balls. The incomplete pass rate of just 3.3% is also very impressive. He is a true nightmare for defenders in man coverage, with a grade of 86.2 in that specific skill, and the 8 yards he averages after each reception is exactly what we need to stretch the field and create explosive plays. Just imagine having a player like that leaving defenders slipping in open space, creating those highlight moments that completely change the momentum of a game. And besides the value he would bring as a receiver, he can also be utilized on special teams as a returner, adding even more versatility to the roster. With only 6 total picks in the 2026 draft, we need to find players who can contribute in multiple areas, and Branch fits that profile perfectly. The combination of Bailey in the first round and Branch in the third would give the Commanders exactly what is missing: explosive speed and the ability to make plays on both sides of the ball. These would be picks that not only fill immediate needs, but also add dynamic elements that can elevate the play of everyone around them. The question I leave for you to reflect on is, considering that we only have 2 choices in the first 100 positions of the draft and a desperate need to add young and explosive talent, do you agree with this strategy of picking a pass rusher in the first round and a wide receiver in the third? Or do you think we should reverse the priorities and use our highest pick on an elite receiver, considering that Jayden Daniels urgently needs more offensive weapons to develop properly, even if it means waiting until later in the draft to find help on the defensive line?